Another night, and you brought more ale. Stronger stuff this time. Essential for keeping warm here in the fractured peaks. Pour me a cup. Tonight is a long, sad tale of bravery and betrayal, and the great blight of destruction that changed the very fabric of our world. When last we spoke of Inarius and Lilith and humankind's creation. How humanity found itself caught by the eternal conflict. A battle that does not belong to humankind, but one we must fight nonetheless. Two rival groups, the Temple of the Triune and the Cathedral of Light, sprang up on the world of Sanctuary and strove to win over the hearts of mankind. The Triune was secretly backed by the three prime evils, Mephisto, Baal, and Diablo, who had discovered Sanctuary's existence. Inarius secretly founded the Cathedral of Light in response, an attempt to counter their malevolent influence. Unbeknownst to either the prime evils or Inarius, Lilith returned to Sanctuary to reawaken her children's dormant powers, knowing they had the ability to banish the agents of the burning hells and Inarius for good. Soon after, Sanctuary was engulfed in what would become known as the Sin War, a catastrophic proxy war over the souls of humankind. Humanity won the war, but they faced another kind of battle. The high heavens too became aware of Sanctuary and her blasphemous children, and now deliberated on humanity's ultimate fate. With the Angiras Council split, the Archangel Tyrael cast the final vote to spare us from extermination. Instead, the memory of all that came before was taken from humankind, including knowledge of their inherited power. In exchange for their part in leaving Sanctuary alone, the burning hells took Inarius into their custody, and it is said that he has suffered unending torment at their hands ever since. Of course, it is not the nature of the burning hells to leave well enough alone, and before long more attempts to corrupt humankind were underway. The lesser evils, led by Asmodan and Belial, staged an uprising that upset the established order of the burning hells. Convinced the prime evils had abandoned the eternal conflict in favor of corrupting humanity, the usurpers set out to banish the three prime evils to Sanctuary. They lost fully 1/3 of their army, but they succeeded in banishing Mephisto, Baal, and Diablo into the mortal realm in what would come to be known as the Dark Exile. They spent decades spreading terror, hatred, and destruction across the land. It is here that the story of the Haradrim begins, when Tyrael assembled a group of powerful mages and tasked them with humanity's defense, standing fast against the tyranny of the prime evils and guarding against the wrathful eyes of the heavens, falling upon humankind once again. Tyrael carved 3 soul stones from pieces of the World Stone, crystalline prisons designed to contain the malignant essence of a prime evil. Sapphire for Mephisto, amber for Baal, and crimson for Diablo. Under Tyrael's guidance, the Haradrim searched across the vastness of Sanctuary for the Lords of Hell, with the aim to contain them. The Haradrim found Mephisto, and after much struggle imprisoned him. The Sapphire Soulstone was given to the Zakarum for safekeeping. They also battled Baal, but in the process the Soulstone intended for him was shattered. The Order's leader, Tal Rasha, trapped Baal's essence in the largest shard of the Amber Soulstone, but feared that was insufficient. The Haradrim concluded they could fuse the shard to a human body in an effort to better contain Baal's power. Tal Rasha selflessly volunteered his own body to contain the Lord of Destruction's raging essence. Tyrael himself took up the solemn duty of driving the shard into Tal Rasha's heart. The grieving Haradrim sealed away their noble leader within a subterranean tomb, believing they were leaving him to suffer torment beyond imagination as he struggled to hold fast the monstrous Lord of Destruction for all of time. In the wake of this tragedy, Jared Kane took leadership of the bruised and battered mages. Together, the Haradrim spent nearly 10 years following Diablo's path of terror through Sanctuary, until finally coming to blows and containing him within the Crimson Soulstone. Diablo's soul stone was carefully hidden deep in a labyrinthian cave system by the Haradrim. To guard the great evil hidden in its depths, a Haradric monastery was built atop the caves. The hope, I believe, was that it would never be disturbed, and that Diablo would be forgotten in the great below, his influence fading with time. But that was not to be. No prison can last forever. So long as a key exists, its door can be opened. The land near that small monastery would eventually be settled, and the quiet, prosperous town of Tristram was founded there. None could have known, except perhaps Diablo, the grim fate that would befall the unfortunate souls that called Tristram home. Over time, foreign powers influenced the land, and Tristram became politically significant. At the behest of the Zakharum Church, and guided by Archbishop Lazarus, a Zakharum lord named Leoric crowned himself king of Kandurus and made Tristram his capital. He converted the old Haradric monastery into his seat of power, unaware of the threat that lurked beneath. Leoric was wise and just, ushering in an era of peace and prosperity for Tristram. But with time, his outlook darkened, and he grew irrational, his mind slipping towards madness and paranoia. The king began ordering the execution of any who questioned him. People started calling him the Black King. He declared war on the neighboring kingdom of Westmarch, in part thanks to Lazarus's counsel, an unjust and unwinnable war. Leoric's eldest son Aidan joined the fight, seeking approval from his father. Shortly after Aidan's departure, Leoric's youngest son Albrecht went missing. Leoric tortured and executed many of his own people in his frenzy to find his son. His knights, freshly returned from the war and appalled at the state of their kingdom, were forced to slay the Black King to stop the brutality. In an attempt to honor the man he had been, Leoric was given a proper burial in the old catacombs. Aidan too returned to find a kingdom in shambles. Rumors of the horrific happenings in Tristram spread, along with the news of the appearance of demonic creatures, and brought adventurers to Tristram. 2 such adventurers joined Prince Aidan when he entered the catacombs to find his brother Albrecht. During this harrowing journey, Aidan was forced to strike down his own father, who had been reanimated as a foul entity called the Skeleton King. Continuing on, Aidan soon found Diablo himself. After a great battle of fire and steel, the Lord of Terror was defeated. But this ending is not a happy one. For Diablo had twisted young Albrecht's body into his own demonic form. In slaying the demon, Aidan had slain his younger brother. Distraught, Aidan pulled the soul stone from Albrecht and plunged it into his own body. In the weeks that followed, Aidan would seek comfort with a local witch named Adria. Slowly succumbing to Diablo's influence, Aidan eventually traveled east from Tristram and became known as the Dark Wanderer, set on liberating Baal and Mephisto. As the Dark Wanderer traveled east, a new group of adventurers arrived in Tristram. They rescued Deckard Cain from the ruins of Tristram, who implored them to give chase. Soon the party found themselves taking part in a dangerous pursuit of the Lord of Terror. Following the Dark Wanderer's path towards the tomb of Talrasha, the adventurers would face the lesser evils of Andariel and Duriel, who had rallied to Diablo's aid. Instead of Talrasha, they discovered Tyrael imprisoned in the tomb. Baal, still using Talrasha as a vessel, had escaped imprisonment to join Diablo in his guise as the Dark Wanderer. Together they had overcome Tyrael and trapped him in the prison he'd made for Baal so long ago. The heroes pressed on to find Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, deep in the jungles of Kurast. Once more the heroes were too late to stop Diablo, as he shed what little of Aidan remained, reverting to his monstrous demonic form before returning to the burning hells to rally his demonic legions. Mephisto remained behind, believing he could defeat the brave pursuers. His confidence was misplaced. the Lord of Hatred was defeated and sealed in the Sapphire Soul Stone. The heroes followed the Lord of Terror into the burning hells, thinking only of sanctuary and not the grim fate that likely awaited them there. At Tyrael's request, the heroes confronted the corrupted angel Isuel on the Plains of Despair. In slaying him, the heroes freed Isuel's spirit, and he informed them that the prime evils knew how to corrupt the soul stones. With this information, Cain sent the heroes to the Hellforge to destroy the Sapphire Soul Stone, in the hopes that this would prevent Mephisto from manifesting in this world ever again. Once there, they had to defeat a demon called Hephasto the Armorer, a towering monstrosity with wide horns. His powerful arms strengthened by thousands and thousands of strikes with his Hellforge hammer against the anvil. After successfully destroying the Sapphire Soul Stone, the heroes traveled deep into the wastes of the burning hells to face the Lord of Terror himself. They fought a fierce, pitched battle against increasingly dire odds deep in Diablo's own realm. But the heroes fought and defeated Diablo. They pulled the shard from Diablo's head, trapping his essence inside, and returned to the Hellforge to destroy it as well. With this momentous achievement, only Baal remained to threaten Sanctuary. Unfortunately for us, even one prime evil can unleash inconceivable devastation. As the heroes struggled with Diablo in Hell, Baal, Lord of Destruction, set his demonic army on a course to Mount Arreat, annihilating all in his path on the way to his prize, the World Stone. Survivor accounts describe the prime evil atop his litter, surveying the barbarian city of Secheron with ravenous malice and an insatiable lust for carnage. His vision for Sanctuary was a wasteland stained with blood. It is both humbling and horrifying to know how close he was to achieving that goal. Thanks to the bravery of the barbarians in the town of Haragath at the base of Mount Arreat, Baal's army was temporarily repelled, buying time enough for reinforcements and the heroes that had slain Diablo and Mephisto to arrive. They fought their way through Baal's army, up the mountain, and finally into the very heart of Sanctuary, the World Stone Keep. Though our heroes ultimately defeated Baal, they could not stop his poisonous malice from infecting the World Stone. A difficult choice had to be made, and so it was. Tyrael chose to destroy the World Stone rather than let it fall to corruption. He hurled his great sword Eldruin at the World Stone, shattering it. Some of its shards fell to earth, imbued with power. The World Stone was nearly as large as the mountain that housed it, and its destruction turned the imposing peak of Mount Arreat into nothing more than a vast crater. Local settlements and tribes scattered to the wind, many forced to seek new homes. And it is in this new world, deeply wounded by the treachery of the prime evils, that the next chapter in our history unfolded. The tragic tale of Lear, Diablo's assault on heaven, and Malthael's betrayal, and why so few of us remain. Take care in the darkness. There's more lurking out there than the wind.